Walalio Dandelbedayo. Good evening. Thank you for coming. We are officially ready to start with the presentation. So my name is Dawn Germain, and I have been working very closely with Charles Basque, organizing and setting up some community engagement events for his land use planning project. Over the next few months, you will see him and I working together fairly closely. Charles is really going to be getting out into the community, holding lots of workshops and activity sessions with you to gather information on how we can build together a land use plan. So tonight, again, this is just an introductory presentation because we know that land use planning isn't something that's very commonly talked about. So we just want to make sure that you guys have an understanding of what it is and why Charles and the Chief and Council and the Economic Department feel like it would be a good thing for Listuguj to have a land use plan. So he's just going to start off with a brief presentation, identify for you some key concepts about land use planning, and then we'll have a question and answer period after the presentation. Again, as we mentioned, next Tuesday, March 20th, will be our first open workshop. But stay tuned for a list of dates coming over the next 3 months. We'll be holding several targeted workshops as well as activities at the Listuguj Farmers Market. So Charles Basque works with the LMG Economic Development Department. He is the land use planning coordinator, and he has been specifically assigned to this project developing what he's called the Listugujewei land use plan. So he's about a week and a half in from coming back from his paternal leave, so he's really excited to be presenting to you and getting really engaged and getting back into the swing of things regarding his land use plan. So let's give him a really warm welcome as he's going to deliver for you his introductory presentation. Charles?
Thank you, Don. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Basque, Land Use Planning Coordinator. Before I begin, I would like to say a few things. I'm new to public speaking. This is the second time I've ever spoke to the public. I'm very nervous right now, so just bear with me. So yeah, public speaking doesn't necessarily come natural to me, but I'm hoping through practice I'll get better. So anyways, I know my presentation might be lacking. I may be staring at my notes quite often, and I hope that's not an issue. I think the most important part is the transfer of information. So I hope that's what sticks with you tonight. So this is the community introduction to the Listugujewei Land Use Planning Project. Community land use planning, what is it and why do we need it? The purpose of this presentation is to present to you, the community, a basic understanding of what land use planning is, why it's important for the community to help develop a land use plan for Listuguj. Also, before I continue, I would like to let you know that whenever I say land use planning, I'm actually referring to community land use planning. The community part of community land use planning is a descriptor word for the type of land use planning that we're going to use in Listuguj. Community land use planning is a type or style of land use planning which focuses on the community input during all developmental stages so we can develop a plan that reflects the community's values and needs. So for simplicity's sake, whenever I say land use planning, I'm actually referring to community land use planning. Throughout my presentation, I may be highlighting or repeating a few key words to describe the process and roles for the development of our land use plan. When developing or utilizing a land use plan, I plan on keeping these key words in the front of my mind. I plan on keeping these words in the forefront of my mind in order to keep true to my own commitment to the development of our land use plan. So I call these words my super words. S is for sustainability. It's about creating balance and is long lasting. U is for unity. It's about coming together in agreement, togetherness. P is for planning. It is for forward thinking for the future. E is for engagement. It is communication and commitment. R is for responsibility. It is to be ethical and eco-friendly. So during this presentation, I will be answering 4 overarching questions: what, why, who, and how. So what is land use planning? What is land use? Why is land use planning important? Why should we develop a land use plan? Who will be involved in the planning process? How is a land use plan developed? And how can you be involved in the land use planning process? Oops. There you go. So, what is land use? Land use describes the various ways in which human beings make use of and manage the land and its resources. According to the research I found online, there are 6 major group types of land use: residential land use, such as housing, apartments, duplexes; transportational land use, such as roadways, airports, or train stations. I know we're never going to get an airport, but I figured I'd include that too to give you a greater understanding of what transportational land use is. Commercial land use, such as the many convenience stores we have, restaurants, retail shops. Industrial land use, such as the water treatment facilities or water pumping stations. Institutional land use, such as the bingo hall, the band office, LMDC, AGS. So the AGS is the school, LMDC is the Listuguj Mi'kmaq Development Center. And recreational land use, such as the ice rink, the ball field, and the playground. In addition to the 6 land use types, I would like to include 2 more types of land use: traditional land use, such as the powwow grounds, hunting and fishing areas, and non-use areas such as protected zones or naturally unused areas. There are 8 types of land use that I've considered to be applicable to the development of our land use plan. During the data analysis steps, the defined types of land use may change or be modified to better reflect the values and beliefs of our community. We can add additional types. We can combine or expand existing ones. It's up to the community. But in conclusion, currently, I will be considering these 8 types of land use when developing our land use plan. So, what is land use planning? Throughout my research, I found many different definitions of land use planning. Last year, I attended a training program that was delivered by the National Aboriginal Lands Management Association, also known as NALMA. It was a land use planning toolkit training course, and it was very, very fun. They define land use planning as a process of planning a scientific and orderly allocation of land, community resources, facilities, and services with a view to maintaining and improving the physical environment and the economic and social conditions within the community. Oops, sorry. So yeah, that was what I just said, I believe. No. Yeah, that was that slide. So this is just another definition. An ecologist could define land use planning as the process of inventorying and assessing the status, potentials, and limitations of a particular geographical area and its resources, integrating with the population associated and or concerning with the area to determine the needs, wants, and aspirations of the future. So, as you can see, land use planning has many definitions. To me, land use planning is a process for determining the best uses of our land and resources to better develop Listuguj in a positive way that takes into consideration the values, beliefs, and principles of our community. It's a very simple definition. Basically, just plan ahead and develop responsibly with the best interests of the whole community in mind. Oh yeah, so that was the previous slide. I just finished that. So as you know now, land use planning can be defined many different ways and depending on who is identifying the need to plan. However, they all capture the same concepts. Land must be developed and or managed. I'm not saying that we have to develop all the lands in Listuguj, but we do have to manage our lands and resources. Management can be done through developing protective measures to prevent or lessen the impact we have on our current land use or future land development. Or we can come to if we come to a unifying agreement that we would like to protect these certain sacred lands, we can establish maybe guidelines, rules, bylaws to prevent people from disturbing that lot, I guess. Another common concept is that we have to establish long-term goals and meet those goals in order to achieve what is best for our community. Our approach to land use planning establishes long-term goals through long-term goal setting through community engagement, both during and after the development of our land use plan. Our land use plan is not meant to be set in stone. It's not supposed to be perfect or unchanging. It is meant to be a living document that changes as we change, as the times change. So we can capitalize on opportunities within Listuguj and grow into a more self-sustainable Listuguj. So if the goals and objectives of our community changes, our land use plan should reflect those changes. So land use planning is about planning for the future, developing a framework for land use and resource management to establish a sustainable future for our people while balancing social, cultural, environmental, and economic issues within the community. It is a decision-making process. It's about making the most sustainable decision for the betterment of our community. A land use plan can help us decide the best locations to build houses, parks, schools, and how infrastructure and other essential services should be provided. Not only is land use planning a means to managing lands, but also managing the environment and its resources. So our plan can include the following: a general land use designation for our lands with a list of potential uses for each designation, zoning designations and regulations for our main population center, guidelines to protect environmentally and culturally sensitive areas, and a development review process that provides a clear, transparent, and strategic framework for future land use decision making. Our plan, once completed, will help us move forward with important capital projects and upgrades while protecting the community's interest and vision. There you go. Okay, so this slide was included just to give you a better understanding of the different types of land, different types of plans we have, and to further define land use planning when compared to other plans listed in the comparison chart. During this slide, I'll just list a few comparisons between the types of plans, but if you would like to give the chart a more careful read, you can view it in your handout. So, a CCP's main focus is on social planning for the community, while a land use plan focuses on land use and zoning for development and management. A strategic plan focuses on the departments or a specific planning topic. A CCP involves higher level planning and establishes a broad vision for the community, while a land use plan further defines parts of the CCP's vision, which is specific to land and its uses. So think of the CCP as a pie chart. Land use planning is just a small portion of that pie. It's a more detailed and elaborated portion. So, why is land use planning important? Well, land is valuable and scarce. It is a finite resource. It has to be managed correctly, or it will not support our people. Abuse of the land will mean fewer resources and fewer options for our people in the future. First Nations people are among the fastest growing demographic groups in the country, and this is putting stress and pressure on the community and its social services, on housing, on demand for employment, and on land usage. So developing a land use plan will hopefully help diminish those negative effects. So a land use plan is a tool for moving towards sustainability. It benefits the whole community. It protects the community's priorities and values for future generations and can proactively implement positive change within the community. This change could include protection of traditional land uses and our environment, and can promote social and economic development. A land use plan gives the community a voice that can be transcribed into a document. It can be a document that gives administration and elected officials a framework for making decisions based on our community's needs and desires. So who develops a land use plan? Our community members help develop a land use plan. Our band members, our elders, our chief and council, our children and youth help develop a land use plan. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, when the community is involved in the developmental process and supports the results, we refer to this as community land use planning. A land use plan usually starts with the overall vision for the community that outlines the community's desires for the future development and or management of the community. And through extensive community engagement, an overall vision can be developed from the collected data and information gathered at the community engagement sessions and workshops. The vision is the backbone for the development of a land use plan. It is what all the policies, guidelines, procedures, and bylaws will stem from. This is why it is essential for the community members to be involved in the initial development of the vision. The membership must also be involved in the identification of issues and concerns, as well as their review of the options and solutions. So to sum it up, community engagement is key to the development of our land use plan, and it is an opportunity for the community to help determine our future uses of our natural resources and land use. So, how is a land use plan developed? Land use planning for a community is based on long-term goal setting and achieving those goals in order to achieve those goals in the best interest of the greater population. The general process for developing a land use plan remains the same whether it's a strategic plan, a physical plan, or a corporate plan. It requires engagement, commitment, and capacity. It is important that a land use plan is linked to other community initiatives that are based on long-term goal settings. An example of such a link would be the connection between the Listuguj Mi'kmaq Community Plan and the Listugujewei Land Use Plan. A well-developed community land use plan should balance the four major components in the sustainable development model. The environmental component, the economic component, the social component, and the cultural component. It demands a multi-generational view. It must be considerate of the people, the well-being of our environment, and the future needs of the community over the long term. It is also important that members are consulted throughout the process. A well-developed land use plan reflects the vision and values of the community. So the next few slides are going to outline the basic comprehensive planning process for the development of our land use plan. The planning process includes four major phases: pre-planning, planning or development of a plan, the implementation phase, and the monitoring and evaluation phase. Community consultation will proceed throughout the entire process. It is important that the community is involved in every step. The final document must be supported by the community, or it would be difficult for the community to accept the plan, and implementations will be difficult to enforce. In the next couple of slides, I will discuss these phases in more depth. Excuse me. So the first phase is the pre-planning phase. The first step in developing a land use plan is deciding that there is a need for a land use plan. The next step is to inform and engage the community, to introduce land use planning to the community and encourage their support and acceptance. After that, we should establish a preliminary vision and eventually formalize our own community vision. This step has already been established in the Listuguj Mi'kmaq Community Plan. Assembling a planning team is the next task, which has already been done. The land use planning team consists of me, the land use planning coordinator, Roger Cormier, Fred Isaac, Fred Metallic, Denny Isaac, and John Mervyn Vicaire. The land use planning team are a group of people who are committed to driving the planning process from start to finish. They are the doers of the plan. Next, background research must be conducted to determine the current types of land uses and their benefits and problems. Previously existing plans, statistical data such as population growth and so forth. Community engagement must be conducted to gather information on the community's desires, values, and to solicit input for the development of our land use plan. In phase 2, data analysis must be done on the information we have collected from the community throughout our research. The land use planning team will finalize the vision and formulate goals and objectives from the data that we have collected. These goals and objectives will be presented to the community via community meetings to solicit feedback and input. We will then review the feedback and input to adjust or amend the goals and objectives until they are accepted. Once the community accepts the proposals, our team can begin to draft our final planning document. The next step would be, once the draft is completed, the chief and council will have the opportunity to review the plan. If it is not satisfied that the document can be sent back for further community input, or if they are not satisfied, the document can be sent back for further input. And once the document is completed and endorsed by the band council, by a band council resolution, the plan will be made available for all members. So phase 3 is implementation. Once the land use plan has been approved, it is time for the implementation phase. The purpose of the implementation phase is to complete the actions and projects set out in the Listugujewei land use plan. The first step of the implementation phase is to create an action plan that lists the activities of our land use plan. Next would be to develop rules and procedures to manage, use, and implement our own land use plan. The land use plan will set out specific directives for land usage, which is what is acceptable and what is not. In addition, there are constraints that should apply to the developmental activities so that they conform to the environmental requirements and to the policies established in our land use plan. Developing bylaws will ensure that these requirements are met, and that will be done by community and council, chief and council. So phase 4 involves monitoring our land use plan and evaluating the effectiveness of our land use plan. Monitoring and assessing involves collecting information about the types of intensity of land use activities after the land use plan has been adopted, and checking how consistent these uses are with the land use plan's values, strategies, and objectives. Before the annual review is complete, the plan's effectiveness must be analyzed. Is the plan achieving its goals and objectives? Are there types and locations of land use consistent with the plan? In short, is the plan working? The annual reviews would tell us whether the plan is working or not. It is also important to note that the community must be kept informed through all of these processes to keep the community engaged and committed to the plan. Tweaks to the land use plan can be made to improve effectiveness of our plan if it's not working as well as we would like. This can be done by developing new bylaws as needed or by allowing the revision and improvements to the plan. So, how can you be involved? First of all, if you want to be involved in the Listugujewei land use plan, you can come to these meetings. We will have engagement activities, workshops, and I will be at the LMG open house. You can participate in surveys and discussions. You can stay in touch by visiting our Listugujewei land use plan album on the LMG Facebook page. Additionally, you can contact me via phone or email, or just stop by the office. Another way you can be involved in the development of our land use plan would be to enter the Listugujewei land use plan logo contest. Unfortunately, it's ending tomorrow, so I would advise you to finalize whatever you're doing now, because you have less than 24 hours. Yeah. Another way you can be involved in the development of a land use plan is to participate in our calendar contest. It started January 1st, and every month we have a contest. We give $100 out in prizes. There's one prize, I guess. Basically, during the contest, you're supposed to take a picture during that month, something that symbolizes or shows the environment. And at the end of the month, within 5 work days or maybe 7 work days, depending, the land use planning team will get together and we will vote on the best picture. Since I'm the one that gets all the photos, I won't be voting, but my land use planning team will. So yeah, it begins at the first of every month and ends at, I think it was 12. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the information here, but you can visit the LMG Facebook page to gather more information. So yeah, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have 12 photos that we can assemble into a calendar that basically portrays the entire year. So upcoming events, Tuesday we're having a workshop and dinner. It's just going to be at 5 o'clock at this building, the bingo hall. We will be serving spaghetti. Also, we have community workshops April 19th and May 17th. We will also have a engagement results presentation June 7th. And throughout, so the major portion of our engagement step would be from March 2018 to June 2018. And between there, we're going to have a lot of targeted workshops that potentially you guys can attend. And for more information about these presentations and workshops, please visit the LMG Facebook page, because we don't have the exact dates right now. We're still making them anyways, so the dates will be announced for the focus workshops. So to summarize, the overall goal of our land use plan is to establish sustainability. The purpose of our land use plan is to create a working tool that can guide the Listuguj Mi'kmaq government and the community in the development of a better tomorrow. It is meant to be a guide created out of the community's vision and values. It is important that land use planning is developed and managed through the process of establishing long-term goals, planning for the future. During the developmental phase of the Listugujewei land use plan, policies, guidelines, and procedures will be developed and proposed to ensure that the that we meet those goals in order to achieve what is best for the community. It is our responsibility both as a Listuguj Mi'kmaq government and the community to abide by these guidelines and rules to effectively and ethically develop a sustainable future for our children and our children's children. Currently, Listuguj does not have a plan. However, our goal is to have this one developed by the end of March 2019. So yeah, thank you for coming. If you have any comments or questions or concerns, please ask. Also, did you want to do the prize giveaway now, or?
I'm going to do a quick recap first.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Charles. You did a great job. So just before we head into the question and answer period, we're just going to do a quick recap, because that was a lot of information that he just delivered to you regarding land use planning. So one of the things that we really want to just reinforce is the idea that currently Listuguj doesn't really have a land use plan, and we don't really think of land in ways, those 8 categories that Charles described, right? We're used to really thinking about land in way of private, which would be our personal land, where our homes and residential are, or banned land, which would be considered like institutional, right? It's either banned land or it's private land. But really, when you think about it, in a community, as Charles has outlined, there are lots of different target areas that a community should be thinking about. So we have institutional, which is government, but it's also medical health care, it's schools, hospitals, elders care facilities. There's also that environmental and cultural component. You know, what areas in our community should be specified just for cultural activity, should be protected against development? What kind of environmental resources should we be looking at so that we have areas within our community that are safe habitats for you know, our trees and our animals, and what kind of recreational spaces should we be having? So by breaking down into those 8 categories, throughout this consultation process, we're going to be really encouraging community to let us know what they feel about those specific areas and how they feel those areas could play a role and where they would fit in the landscape of our community, which is Listuguj. As he pointed out, especially being a First Nations community, yes, our land is a finite resource, right? We only have so much within our boundary of Listuguj to work with. So land use planning is a really good way to make sure that we're using that land as efficiently and as appropriately and as closely resemblant of the way the community wants the community to actually be formed, which is another reason why we're going to be launching into a heavy 3 months of getting out in the community, talking with people. There's going to be lots of different ways you can engage. Charles is going to be at a lot of community events, including the markets, the wellness fair, the open houses. We're going to be, we've extended invitations to Listuguj departments and other organizations in Listuguj to come talk to staff. We've got targeted workshops for elders and women and environmentalists and traditional knowledge holders and loggers and camp owners. So there's going to be lots of opportunities for you to be able to come and participate in the community sessions. Because again, this isn't going to end up being Charles's land use plan. This is going to be Listuguj's land use plan, and there's really no way that that can be built without community input. So through his training and his research as a land use planning coordinator, he has come up with, you know, these 8 different categories that we could talk about through our engagement sessions. But that doesn't mean that those 8 categories have to remain 8. If we find out through consultations that, you know, maybe one's not as important, that can be omitted. If we find out that maybe we're missing one and we need to have 9 or 10, that can be added. So what we'll be presenting you through the engagement sessions is just a base. It's kind of a starting point. It's a model which could either be scaled down or built upon, depending on what we hear from the community. So the other thing that Charles mentioned is that he does have a model that he's looking to base Listuguj's land use plan on, and this is done from some research that he's done. This is a First Nations community in British Columbia. We do have copies up at the front desk if you would like to take one home with you to browse. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name because I have no training whatsoever on how they speak their language, but this document is quite thick. So what I just wanted to point out to you is basically from page 1 till about 39, this much of the document, the community did a lot of research on themselves, right? They did a lot of research on their history, they did a lot of research on their current status. So this is stuff we already have. Because if you remember in the fall, and I see a lot of familiar faces, we did a very intense engagement with the community comprehensive plan, right? The Listuguj community plan. So a lot of this information is already done for us. A lot of this information we can already retrieve pretty quickly, you know? There might be some things we need to fill in or update, but a lot of this bulk is kind of done through the work that we've done through our CCP. So when you look at this document, basically from page 33 to 48, this is the section where they're kind of outlining their plan, right? They talk about their land use vision, so that was crafted based on community engagement. They talk about their land use objective, which is going to be specifically what we're looking to talk to community members about during the engagement sessions, you know, looking into those 8 categories and trying to find out what it is that you want for your community in, if we're talking about institutional development, if we're talking about recreational development, if we're talking about residential development, what are the things that you want to see Listuguj become? We're also going to talk about a few of the obstacles that exist now, right? Because we can't move forward without recognizing, you know, where we currently are. But a lot of this is going to be talking about ways that we can improve upon. So that's this section here. The last section of this book, they've actually gone ahead and they've developed some policies and procedures for their land use plan based on their land use objectives. So of course this part is going to have to be done in conjunction and partnership with the current Listuguj government, because right now the way that it's set up is Listuguj Chief and Council are responsible for passing bylaws and enforcing bylaws and procedures, adopting those into current action. But part of Charles's job is going to be taking all the information, taking all the knowledge and training that he's received as a land use planner, and coming up with recommendations for policies, procedures, and guidelines that can be adopted by government, either right now or in the future as situations arise. Right, so this booklet, even though it's pretty thick, the middle section is kind of where we're looking to really use a base for our plan, because we've already got lots of the first section done, and then the last section will be presented to you guys in the fall after Charles has a chance to go take his team over the summer and work on some of these things that he's heard from you, right? So we're going to do community engagement from now all the way until June 7th when we release our results. June, July, August, Charles and his team are going to be working very hard on trying to put together something like this for you to review. September, October, November, we're going to come back, do more engagements, and actually show you a document and let you review it and see how you like it. Then over Christmas, well, let's be honest, nothing really happens over Christmas, but when we head back in January, February, March, that'll be March 2019. So that, in those 3 months, we're hoping that we can get Chief and Council to be able to actually make our land use document official and active, knowing that it is a living document, it's always going to grow and change. So these are some of the things that will be built in here, right? How often do we review? How expandable is this document? But like we said, in the fall, we're hoping to actually have something to show you. So right now, it's going to be just a lot of data collection, and we're going to be reviewing those 8 sections. We're going to be hearing about what you think the mission statement should be, what values should come out of the land use plan. In June, he'll take a break, work within the team, and then in the fall, he'll come back and show you what he's got. So if there are any more questions on the process and procedure, I can answer those because I will be helping him organize the most. Otherwise, if you have any questions for Charles specifically about land use planning and the benefits of it, now would be the time to ask. Do we have any questions coming from our live stream audience? Any questions from here? All right, so Charles, you did a great job. Don't be nervous. I think you're becoming a natural presenter. So just before we do our prize draw, everyone has had a chance to sign our sheet. Yes, and Bill, I added you as number 13 on here. Lucky 13, yes. And again, just a reminder, so next Tuesday we're going to be having a spaghetti supper with chicken, Caesar salad, and cheesecake. So we're hoping to start as close to 5 as possible so we can get the meal done by 5:30 and spend a good 2 hours really discussing within our focus groups. We're going to start talking about these actual issues. We're going to break them down for you. And we're really excited to hear what you have to say about how you feel land use planning should be done in Listuguj. All right, so Charles actually has downloaded or has gone on the web. Yeah, has gone on the web. And he's going to use this random number selector to hand out our prizes. We have 3 to hand out tonight, so each winner will be getting a $25 gift card to Sobeys, as well as these nifty little gadgets that Charles has ordered as part of his promotional packages. So this is A portable battery. It's got some charging bases in here where you can plug a USB port into and be able to charge your phones, your cameras, anything you need. And it's got the Listugujewei land use name on it. We used a generic logo for now because, as you just heard, closing tomorrow. And I think we have 3 submissions, don't we? Oh, we have more? Oh, that's excellent. So the planning team will be getting together by the end of the month, we'll be able to announce the winner for the logo design. So from April on, all of our promotional items will have the new logo on it. And we have already had 2 winners, right, for January and February for the calendar contest. Yes, so Brenda Germain and Paul Jacques have won for January and February. And we're really excited to be able to hand this calendar out to you for January 2019 because it will be a year in review, basically, right? We'll have 12 pictures from Listuguj from 2018. I think it's going to make a beautiful calendar. So Charlie, I have numbers 1 to 13. You can input that in your program, and we'll do the first draw, see which number comes up. Number 2. So we have, oh, Margaret, you're the winner. Yes, okay, I'll have Charlie bring it over to you. Congratulations. So you're winning that portable charging station and a $25 gift card. Okay, kick one on your way by. All right, so for the second draw, he's going to pull another random number. Number 1, did that work? We're going to go ahead and work. Number 1 is Marilyn. All right, she's our next winner. Marilyn Jacques. And he's going to do one more for us. 6. All right. So we have Shane Mitchell as our next winner. So Charlie is going to go and deliver those to you. So don't forget, there's a box of pens up at the front. Those are for you to keep. They do have the Listugujewei Land Use Plan slogan on them, as well as he's got a little pamphlet, a copy of the presentation, and should you wish, a copy of the plan that we are looking to emulate. So again, if there's no questions, I hope you all enjoy this lovely evening. Oh, yes, Madeline. No, I got a good one. Oh, Annette. You mean on the committee? On the working committee?
No, we do not. We have John Mervin, we have Fred Metallic, Fred Isaac, Roger Cormier. Yeah.
So one of the reasons that those particular individuals were invited to attend is because it's more of a professional capacity. They work directly with the use of lands, so especially out of from the environmental perspective with GMRC. Roger Cormier is representative of the Public Works from LMG. He does all the land surveying and the infrastructure laying. Fred from, Fred Metallic's got lots of different experiences, but he is very pursuant of like Listuguj's historical context. But your point is noted, Madeline. So the fact that the planning committee could possibly benefit from having an elder present on the committee so that they could be directly involved with the planning is definitely something that Charles is going to take into consideration and look into. Again, it would have to be somebody who would be willing to participate. It would be a volunteer basis, but most definitely he'll look into that. And if there is somebody who is in that position who would like to be involved in that committee, you can definitely get in touch with Charles, and he can set you up to become a member of the team. I think you meet monthly. Monthly, and keep in mind the work will become more intense over the summer though, because that's when a lot of the work is going to actually get done on the formulation of the document. And you also raised another excellent point, Madeline, about chief and council. So, and I'm really, really glad you brought that up because it was something that I neglected to mention and I had intended on mentioning it. So we will be having a specific workshop with chief and council to engage with them as a political body, as members of the government. However, this is my 5th time running a community engagement in Listuguj, and it's been for various different sorts of ideas and proposals and movements. So in my experience, I find that it is most beneficial to get a formal statement from Listuguj Chief and Council showing support for the process, showing support for the work that Charles is going to be doing, and for support for the fact that Listuguj could benefit from a land use plan. However, in workshop settings, I often find that sometimes the presence of Chief and Council can distract the group from focusing on topics at hand, and sometimes the conversation can lean a little bit more political than it does targeted towards the work material. So by request, actually, we have said to Chief and Council, by all means, you're still a community member, and if you want to come, but there is no pressure from us, and there is no specific request from us for them to attend the workshops, because we do want to keep it as politically neutral as possible. We will be constantly updating them. They will be having a brainstorming session directly with us so that they're still informed and still being able to input. But you probably won't see many of them out at the workshops, and that has been from the request from the team, from the engagement sessions. Are there any more questions? Those were 2 really great ones. Yes? So I'll repeat your question just for the sake of the live stream audience. This community member is wondering what other avenues are being taken to engage community members, because the recognition is that the land use plan is a fairly important project, and it will need to be representative of a larger mass of community members than, say, the 20 or 25 that commonly show up to meetings. So we are going to have meetings, a lot of meetings, because that is a way that a lot of people are comfortable with attending. And even if it's 20, your input is valued and important. But there are other things we are doing. So for example, we have live streaming set up right now. So if you're a community member who's not currently in Listuguj, maybe you're away at school, maybe you're away working, you can still log in, watch the meetings, get the information, and participate in the workshops that way. It takes a little bit of time, there's a little bit of turnaround, but eventually this presentation will be edited and posted on the LMG YouTube page, so that if you couldn't make the meeting tonight and you weren't able to log in, you can go to the YouTube page at your leisure, watch the presentation, and always be able to submit comments. We also have a Facebook album on the LMG Facebook page specifically dedicated to the land use plan, where all of our information is posted, where people are allowed to comment and submit feedback that way. We will also be developing surveys that will be handed out, so we'll be mailing out to the community, so every mailbox in Listuguj will get one. We'll be handing them out at all our events, and we'll be posting online, so you'll be able to participate in a survey and submit information that way. We're also going to be participating at large community events that draw lots of attention, so the wellness fair, the open house, the community markets. We've also made an offer for Listuguj families. If you want us to come to you and give you a presentation in your home, maybe, we'll bring dinner, we can bring some pizza, or, maybe have Ryan do a little catering for us. We can come to you, so that's an option as well. So there's lots of different ways that we are looking to engage with people between now and June. And even though, you may not think that community meetings, the 20 people who show up are making that big of a difference to us, by the time we collect all of our data, that's all accumulative, and that does make a difference. So we don't want to cancel the meetings, because there are some people who very much like to engage that way, so we'll leave that option open for you. But when I look out to the crowd and I see that the 20 of you have shown up, I'm really happy. I'm thinking that's fantastic, because the 20 of you are here, you're inputting, and I know and we know in our plan that there's going to be so many different ways that people can reach to us and we can reach out to them. It's not only going to be meetings. So I hope that answers your question. And I should add, if any of you have great ideas, so if there's some way that you think we should be engaging with community members, or if there's a way that you would prefer we approach you, also let us know, because we've got 3 months. We're pretty flexible. We can accommodate. We're really looking to meet you halfway, or come to you all the way if needed, but input is very important. Any other questions or comments? Yes, go ahead. Okay. Oh, great. It's a great question. So she's asking about the calendar and where the pictures come from and if they're past or current. So the way that Charles has set up the contest is when the calendar gets handed out, and realistically it would probably be the end of December 2018, but the calendar will start for January 2019. The idea he had in his mind was that he really wanted to be able to give Listuguj a year in review, to be able to look back at that calendar and to be able to see pictures from that current year. So the winner for January 2018 actually took a picture in January 2018. And it was submitted through email. You can also bring them in physically if you want to. Just like the winner for February took an actual picture of a landscape in Listuguj in February 2018. So we're looking at that for the same for March. Somebody takes a picture in this current year, April, May, all the way to the end, so that when that calendar is handed out in 2019, it'll be kind of a year in review, a reflection of, Listuguj, but also the work that the land use planning team has done.
The winners can be viewed on the electronic board.
Yeah. So Charles is just reminding me that the winners will be always, the winning pictures will always be posted on the Facebook page, but also if you're ever driving in Listuguj or walking by, they're on that big electric board as well. So they'll be featured. Both pictures are featured up there right now for the January and the February winners. It is important to note that if you make a submission, whether it is through email or physical file, even if you don't win the contest, by submitting the pictures, you are in turn giving Charles permission to use your picture, whether it be in his land use planning document, in other promotional materials, or in the calendar. So just because you may not have won the contest doesn't mean that your photo still might not show up in the work that he's doing. So that's really exciting.
All the information is on the LMG Facebook page if you want to see the detailed information.
Yeah, and the contest rules are on the LMG Facebook page, and it's constantly being announced on the radio and on our electric board. And in April, we're planning on also doing a number of mail-outs to community boxes to just let community members know that way as well about all the upcoming meetings and all the upcoming activities that the land use planning team will be holding. Another great question. Anybody else? So are you guys excited to really get in and do some work here with land use planning? Are you starting to see some of the benefits of Listuguj having a plan? Because I know through some of the conversations that we had, even through the community comprehensive plan, a lot of people were expressing frustration about things just being this way for so long and the need for change. So if the CCP is up here and a land use plan is a branch of that, now Charlie is kind of taking some of that information that we received from the CCP and he's working it in more detail now, and he's going to define that for you, right? So these two projects are very related, and I'm so glad that we were able to go through that process of the community comprehensive plan, because it's really setting up Charles to be able to do some really great work with the land use plan. And hopefully that will branch more plans to come along the way. But right now our focus, of course, is just the land use planning. So, any more questions or comments? You know what? If he's in the office, you can walk right in and let the receptionist know that you want to see him.
Or you can call me.
Or you can call, yeah. He's there most of the time, but it might be nice to call ahead because I have booked his schedule pretty intensely for April and May. So if you want to be sure to catch him in the office, maybe just give him a quick call, because we will be out in the field a lot, but absolutely he's accessible to you anytime. If you've heard his radio commercials, he's always inviting you to just come on in, stop by, and have a chat. So Ryan has packed up a lot of leftover food for us. I'm going to have him bring it out. I've brought a lot of extra grocery bags, so please, please, please feel free to take as much as you need and distribute to whoever it is you would like to distribute to, because we don't want to have any leftovers. So thank you. Walaliak, thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you all on Tuesday.